What if your PMDD symptoms weren't a life sentence? I'm your host, Natalie Ryan Hebert, and in this episode, I'm sitting down with my client, Jess, and we talk about her inspiring journey of overcoming severe PMDD symptoms. Jess shares how she went from years of debilitating physical and emotional pain, including suicidal ideation and considering a hysterectomy, to reclaiming her health and rediscovering herself through my holistic approach. Learn how Jess overcame childhood trauma, rewired her subconscious beliefs, and rebuilt her life using a combination of rapid transformational therapy and metacognitive tools. If you're ready to explore a proven method that goes beyond medications and quick fixes, this episode is a must listen. Thank you, Jess, for joining me.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
So the first question I have for you that I'd like you to share is where you were at when you first discovered the work that I do, or what was it that you were going through that made you want to reach out?
Absolutely. So in short, I actually came across, I believe it was on Instagram. I had come across, I followed a lot of PMDD sufferers and sort of meme pages and everything. I came across the program, and I think at the time, this is about a year ago, so I knew it was something I needed to do. And I think part of me maybe wasn't ready. So I did a bunch of research into it. I even booked calls with you. And on the surface, I was so ready to dive in. But something about it just really resonated with me. Part of it was your message, your professionalism, but something about it was just different. I think this is sort of the only program, sort of maybe in existence that I've found at least, that offers this kind of in-depth, result-oriented sort of healing. You've got the testimonials to prove it. So it was just a very professional presentation. And I just knew that it was absolutely going to work. And it took me about a year to, maybe a bit less than a year, to actually get signed up and everything. And I told myself, I'll give myself a few months, look around, see if there's anything else, but there's no program like this.
Yeah, no, I don't think there is, as far as I'm aware. I think what makes it unique is that I've been through PMDD myself, and I really believe, especially now. I mean, I always had this conviction. That's why I started doing this work, that PMDD is related to the subconscious deep beliefs that are triggered in women who are highly sensitive when the hormones shift. That's basically my belief in a nutshell. And now that I've worked with dozens of women around the world now with PMDD and seen the change and the transformation, I'm very convinced that I'm onto something pretty important.
Yeah, I would agree.
Yeah. So what were you experiencing in yourself, if you don't mind sharing, and don't go into great detail, but symptoms-wise?
Absolutely. So I would be classified as having very severe PMDD from, what my doctors have told me throughout the years. I think I've had it about 14 years up until now. So I would have the kind of extreme symptoms of, suicidal ideation to, physical pain, muscle tension, migraines, like brain fog and confusion. I'd even find trouble like making sentences sometimes. I mean, it was like a different person. Which, the symptoms vary depending on what was going on in my external life, but there was always something underlying there that was just this monster that would kind of eat me alive every 2 weeks. And really just kind of, I was living a half-life. So
yeah, well, I mean, when it takes over from the luteal phase, it is like,
you're just out of commission.
Yeah, half your life is hijacked, isn't it? It's
absolutely.
And it's so difficult to explain, and there's not a lot of help out there for it. No. Even if you go to the doctor, all they can do is treat the symptoms that they see on the surface with either medicating with antidepressants or just trying to change the cycle, remove have a hysterectomy, just take the whole
absolutely
thing out altogether.
Very extreme. Very extreme. There was no sort of medium.
No, and can make it worse too. I hear a lot of clients come to me saying, I've tried birth control, but that just made things even worse. So it's a bit like Russian roulette with the birth control option. You just don't know, is this going to be good or bad? And so how did you find, so the Red Tent program is 8 weeks long, and we do rapid transformational therapy combined with metacognitive
coaching and sort of mindset, self-love work. So it's quite well-rounded. We work on the subconscious and also on the conscious mind. How would you describe what your experience of the red tent was like?
It was brilliant. I was very sort of apprehensive to get involved, to be vulnerable, to dive into. I almost didn't want to look at the kind of monsters that were buried within me. But not only is the program so gentle, it eases you into it. There's never a point where you might be overwhelmed. But I just found the whole thing to be incredibly well organized, very simple, very easy to follow. We have this weekly coaching call, which was the thing I was looking forward to the least, was getting in front of other people, having to talk and share your experiences. But that was probably, next to the RTT, was the most helpful for me personally, because I've been doing sort of metacognitive psychology and all sorts of conscious mind therapies for many, many years. So for me, it was really good practice to get back into them and actually commit to doing them for 8 weeks. But the RTT itself was life-changing. And then having the group aspect of someone to confirm you are not the only person going through this, and actually we're getting through it together, was absolutely life-changing.
Yeah, I love it too, the weekly calls. It's so good because you each have so much wisdom as well, so much wisdom to share with each other. So it's this beautiful group.
It's just this energetic sort of like fountain of, we can never predict what we're going to speak about, but it's always relevant.
It is. And there almost seems to be there's a theme that we have each week that's sort of like, oh gosh, that's the same for me.
That we all went through this. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's magical, actually.
Beautiful synergy that comes to it, and synchronicity.
Definitely.
And, fantastic. So the RTT, it is a very deep therapy. And what did you discover about those monsters that you thought were back there? What were the monsters really?
Nothing. They were just protection mechanisms. It was me, my little self, protecting me, and not really realizing that it's sort of, it's like a Russian doll. So if you're the Russian doll and then you pop out, and then that self says, I'm going to protect this self so that you don't get hurt anymore. And then, but now I've popped out and I'm now this big Russian doll trying to fit into this little one. And it's just, I think the RTT takes the emotion and the pain and the anguish out of the situation. And it's just, you look at it objectively without that emotion, just say, it just is what it is. It's just this little protection mechanism that is harmless. It's just trying to keep you safe. And that was, I think just knowing that in and of itself, when you have PMDD, you are not, I can't speak for everyone, but I think there's a lot of self-loathing and a lot of, it's obviously me and there's something wrong with me. But actually, no, it's just you're trying to do the best you can with the resources you had maybe when you were younger.
Yeah.
It's a really life-changing revelation.
Because that's something that's wrong with me. That's something that you start to believe very, very early on. And it's like a lens. And you don't know the lens is there. So you just make everything match what you believe. You prove yourself right, but it's wrong. And it was never true in the first place. And I think when you're able to bring your adult awareness back to that little child in the scenes that you go back to in RTT, and you can see it with different eyes and go, oh gosh, look what I've interpreted from that when I was 3 years old. I thought it was my fault, or I thought that meant there was something wrong with me. But when you see
you're just 3.
You, of course, you're completely innocent in the whole thing, and it's not you. But children do internalize because they want to keep the parent perfect, because the parent's the one looking after them. It feels too scary for the parent to have something wrong. It's better that I have something wrong because at least it's in my control.
Absolutely.
So that's how we get stuck with all of this internalized unworthiness. And it's just being able to undo that really does change everything. So
I think it's important to note, in my research, I found that I want to say it was around 78% of diagnosed PMDD sufferers, it's actually not genetic. So where I would have thought, I inherited this from my mom, there's nothing I can do about it, I'm very powerless in this situation. Actually, it's not. There are very, very low genetic factors. And actually what the science and the research says that they've been doing since, the 80s, but, hasn't been published until very, very recently, is that actually more than 80% of sufferers have experienced some traumatic event in childhood, or, were around that even in the womb. And so they develop this. And when I found that statistic before I joined RTT, that was the one that set me over the edge and said, wow, okay, then I really have a chance to fix this. So the most important thing that anyone watching this could take away is that you are not powerless. It's not genetic. It's not out of your control. You can heal it, and you don't have to live like this.
Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah. I think to say the sentence, I have PMDD, like I have cancer or I have diabetes, it's not
That's
like
a life sentence.
No, yeah. And it's, it's a label that's been given to a list of symptoms, but these are the symptoms that have a root cause. And the
Precisely.
root cause is, in my belief, unresolved trauma being triggered by a hormonal shift and exacerbated by the sensitivity. The only thing wrong with you is that you're a highly sensitive, empathetic person. That's probably the only thing that does set you apart, if anything. If you want to look for something genetic or something that makes you different.
That's a gift.
And it is a gift, but it can feel like a curse when you feel your own stuff so deeply. So the key is not in getting rid of the sensitivity and numbing yourself out. It's not in removing the female cycle altogether and having a hysterectomy.
Which I almost did. I was very close. And this program was my last hope before the double hysterectomy.
Wow.
Actually.
And you don't have children yet, do you, Jess? So
I'm 25, so I had to make that decision. So this was a tough year to actually sit down with my partner and say, look, we're either going to cancel our future and have to adopt if that's what we ever wanted to do. And to make a decision like that when you're with your partner for a year and you're only 25 years old I knew something had to change.
Wow.
Very soon.
Yeah. What a spot to be in. Yeah. So that's all that's back on the table. You don't have to be a mother if you don't want to, but
I could.
But you could be, right? And your uterus is intact. And how are you?
I'm so grateful for that.
How are you now? We're only just coming to the end of the program, and I find that the work, it has a positive snowball effect. So I imagine when I follow up with you again in 6 months, it's going to be even better. But how are you feeling in yourself now? What changes, and what if you can try and explain what you've been through, where you've come to in the 8 weeks that we've worked together now?
Sure. So I hope that in the beginning of this sort of interview, I've sort of articulated that, I spent, I would say, more than 10 years, thinking that I was going to die before I didn't think I would live to be 21. So when I hit 18, that was a revelation. When I hit 21, I was like, oh my God, I'm still here, and as I got older, I knew that I wasn't going to die young, which was a massive relief. But the symptoms I ended up just living with and sort of numbing and just literally putting a Band-Aid on with birth control, with antidepressants, and I just thought to myself, I'll be on this for the rest of my life, but at least I'm alive. So that was my compromise. And then now, and it's only been, 2 months. So going from my physical symptoms to being absolutely disabled, having to take time off work, using all my sick days within a few months, the physical pain, I would have muscle spasms so bad where I'd have to take some sort of sedative just to keep my body from almost seizing, but it wasn't sort of neurological. And I can't even explain the pain. And just, every person in my life had to be made aware that there's something wrong with me, which is why I can't hang out with you all the time, or why I can't commute to the office every week, and things like this, where it was really sort of starting to spread throughout my life. Within less than the 8 weeks, within 4 weeks, all of the physical vanished. Almost all of it, and then some. So that's still improving. Within, the mental and emotional aspect started to heal right away. Now I can say my symptoms, I don't actually know when my cycle, I don't know where I am in my cycle at all, which is a massive sort of indicator. And I would say the most profound effect is the way that you start to act in relationships and act in your life. Suddenly I can see 5 years down the road and think, yeah, I can start planning for that. Whereas previously I would be like, I just need to survive this month and see if I can even make it another month or 3 months or something.
Yeah.
And as you said, I think when you come to the end of that 8 weeks, it's not the end, it's literally just the beginning. So the 8 weeks is kind of like, doing the foundation, doing the prep work before you put on your foundation. And it's like, now we're going to do the makeup, which is, you know, just like you said, just snowballs and gets better and better and better.
And you've got the tools, or it's like laying the foundation for a house, and you're like, okay,
exactly,
I'm ready to build, and here I've got all the tools here in my backpack, and I've got all the materials I need, and now
you're ready.
Just what to do. You know, we love our metaphors, don't we, Jess?
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, so that is what it's like. Instead of going, oh, I couldn't possibly build anything on this, it's just mush and
it would just crumble.
The swamp, right? That's probably how it felt. But now the swamp, we've drained the swamp.
We have.
and we've built a beautiful foundation, and now you're beginning to build on it, and there's a future, and there's something to be hopeful for.
And I think the best thing about it is, I think if you have PMDD, you almost cannot, you can get a snippet of what your life could be like if you didn't have symptoms. But then you have 2 weeks of sort of doom and gloom, where you have to then spend the good 2 weeks building it back up, apologizing for not responding to people's messages for 2 weeks. And then, you know, it's a vicious cycle. Whereas now, and before I started this program, I said to myself, if I could even have 1 month of my life without symptoms, that would be enough to, you know, make me feel hopeful and start to grow relationships. And the thing is, you know, once your health is better, that's miraculous. But the even better part of that is the fact of the new relationships you can cultivate, because you're a new person, or I should say you are you that you weren't necessarily allowed to be because you were so inhibited by your symptoms. So I've been this person all along, but I couldn't bring her out or express her because I was so almost disabled by this condition that I labeled it as my condition. And there's just so much ownership around that. That's so limiting.
You become identified with it, and it starts as a protection. Like you were saying, there's always protective things in place, which don't seem that they're hurting you, but they think they're there to protect you, which you understand once you start doing the work. It's a bit difficult to explain that in one sentence now, but it starts out as the protection, but it ends up as your prison, doesn't it? It's like a hermit crab climbs into a little shell and says, good, I'm safe now. But then the hermit crab grows. It's like you're a babushka doll.
Then the shell,
analogy. You know, you're an adult now, stuck in the protections of maybe a 3 or 5 year old, 7-year-old, and it is very debilitating. Instead of being able to really just say, I'm actually an adult, and I'm the parent in my own life. I decide now, and I'm not that dependent little child anymore that needs to be something in order to survive in the family I'm in, or at the school that I'm at, or whatever it happens to be. So you can, as the adult, drop all of that. But it's not something we can just do consciously. We can't just sort of sit in the mirror and go, I'm good enough. It doesn't sink in, because the subconscious belief is like, no, you're not. What are you trying to tell yourself that for? So we need to get to it at the subconscious level to change it there. And then it's easy to take that stuff in because it matches.
Absolutely.
You can say, I love myself, and mean it.
Because I think what, so I had sort of learned and studied sort of the subconscious and conscious mind from maybe age 11, because my dad was sort of goal setting, really great in that sort of arena. So I have known about this my entire life. And I think that's, for me, when I had been looking for more than 10 years for a way to quickly access the subconscious mind. And I knew sort of hypnotherapy could do that. I knew things, but you couldn't just necessarily go to a hypnotist or something where you can just get access to that space without being trained. You know, what are you even looking for? What are you trying to fix there? So as soon as I even heard about RTT, I heard about RTT before this program. And as soon as I put 2 and 2 together, I thought this is the key, you know, this is the answer. And it absolutely was. So it's that subconscious, unlock that door, and you can absolutely heal everything.
Yeah. And the wonderful thing about RTT is we're not just sort of getting at a subconscious level and planting some nice seeds, which I'm not, some hypnotherapy is like that. It's just, let's just say a whole lot of nice things and
maybe make a new pathway and hope it sticks. And
but really you need to you need to disconnect those old neural pathways by having the subconscious mind go, oh, that's really not true. And I use that analogy about Santa Claus a lot, that once you find out Santa Claus isn't real, you can't go back to believing in him anymore.
No, of course not.
That's what has to happen in the RTT session, that belief that was so true and so strong for you needs to be questioned so deeply that it breaks. and it doesn't work anymore as a belief.
Absolutely.
And
if you look
then
at
you can plant the new beliefs, because if
exactly.
it's been one and it's been there longer, then it's going to win out.
It's a really good way of looking at it, like the path less taken. So if you have two paths in a wood, and you've got the very open path you've been treading your whole life, there's no bush in the way, and the new beliefs are like this very skinny sort of footpath that only one person can fit on, and it's covered with leaves or bushes, and that's the best way to think of it. Is your neural pathways are actually sort of like super highways. So you've been running on this 6-lane highway and trying to switch over to a 1-lane back road made of cobblestones, and that's where it's very hard to do that on your own, even if you're been doing this for your whole life, and goal setting and subconscious programming and even meditation. But again, it's what we're doing is so profound, and like you said, you're absolutely you're not even clearing the second path, you're destroying that old path, so it just can't work anymore.
It's not an option to even take anymore.
Exactly.
And it is, you really, we can do a lot of work on our own, but you need someone to hold that space so that you can just let go, and so the conscious mind doesn't come in and try and help. You need someone to hold the space, to be the container, so that the subconscious can come up. I mean, I know a lot of stuff, but I don't, when I need to have something cleared, I have RTT for myself. I don't do it myself. I go to somebody I trust to do it for me. And so I can let go, and someone can hold that space for me. So there's a lot we can do on our own, but there comes a point where you just have to, where you need someone to give you the space to be able to do the healing work with you.
I would absolutely agree.
Yeah. So if, there's probably right now some woman somewhere in the world watching this going, oh my gosh, this is just like me, and this is probably making her feel hope that there is a different life available. What would you, from your heart, what would you say to her?
I would say, no matter what is going on in your life, whether it be financial, personal, you could be doing 2 courses at school and working full time with 4 kids. When you make this and yourself a priority, 8 weeks is nothing. So I just think if you can picture the rest of your life being an open road because you could just focus for this 8 weeks, I would drop everything and do anything to make that possible. And I would say that that's exactly what you have to do. No matter how hard it seems, you just have to make it happen.
Yeah.
You don't have to do it right away, but like me, it took me 9 months, but I knew that this was my goal and this was the way I was going to achieve it. So when you decide, right, I'm ready to fix this, you'll move mountains to make it happen.
No, that's so true. It is, because that power really is with you, and everything.
It's scary.
It's such a cliche. Everything you need is within you, but it
so
really
true,
is. You have all the answers. I just help you to get to them. But it's really, you're the hero of your life. I say this to every client, that you have to be on that white horse, like, I'm coming. It's
flag.
you, because it's the little girl in you that needs the adult you to come and rescue it. I'm not going to do it. You're going to. I'm just going to facilitate the recognition, and that's exactly what you did, and you were ready. And it's good that you waited until you were ready. So you've got to be right for it. You've got to be ready for it. So that's true. And whenever I sort of have a preliminary chat with a client, I sort of look for that readiness. I don't want to drag someone to their own healing journey.
Exactly.
I'm here. I'm ready. I'm saddled up. Let's go.
Yeah. And I think that's why for me, it did take me so many months. I had to actually, I kind of, there's a stubbornness, and there's a, it's almost like if you told someone you've got diabetes and it's an autoimmune disease and it's incurable, it's your pancreas doesn't function properly. Well, you're of course going to believe that. So when I came across this notion that actually, that's not true at all. It might be autoimmunity or something, considered these, fluctuations in response to hormones, but that's just the scientific side of it. So I was completely neglecting the emotional, spiritual side of things. Whereas actually, once I removed all the emotional crap, I mean, the autoimmune disease that was incurable suddenly isn't happening anymore. My skin's clear. The weight that I've been carrying in my midsection for 20 years is actually dwindling. So it's like a cascade of actual physical effects as well.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, because you're not protecting.
No.
Whatever you were holding on
amazing.
to there is allowed to be released. And yeah, there's so many things. I could tell you 100 stories.
15 years I've been carrying this little pouch of chub. And, it's crazy.
Wow, gosh.
And I've just been storing this protection of like, don't harm my sensitive insides. And it's like, well, actually now I'm strong, and my skin's clear, my hair's growing. There's just so many things that are, you could say they're not correlated, but they absolutely are. Because if you look at the physical body, I mean, it's all just chemical responses. So, we can take away that catalyst. Sorry, my vacuum's just gone off. We've got this little robot vacuum. So
yeah. No, that's it's fantastic. I mean, I never say, I'm going to cure all your physical problems, but the stories that tell you that the physical issues, adenomyosis,
the IBS as well, the migraines,
so many things, that calm down or clear when the emotional side is sorted out. So
I think it's important to mention, I mean, I couldn't really leave the house at certain times because my IBS was so bad. And then within a few weeks, you asked me how I was doing, and I thought to myself, I'm absolutely fine. I didn't even notice that. They just vanish. And it's not like in the beginning, you never advertise that, and there was never a point where you said, I can cure, or it was nothing like that. It was, here's this program, here's the results. And if you want to embark on your own journey with it, then, we'll be here to guide you and hold that space for you. And I think that's the difference between selling someone a dream versus offering them a new way. So.
Oh, thank you so much for your sharing here today, Jess. It's so lovely to see all these changes in you, and you're absolutely deserving of it. Everything you've really put the commitment into yourself, and now here come all the results for you because you've really owned your life. And that's wonderful. And I'm looking forward to seeing everything that continues to positively snowball for you from here. So thanks so much for sharing with me today.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for joining me on Women Who Heal. If you found this episode helpful, I'd love it if you could take a moment to rate and review the podcast. Your support helps us reach more women who might need this message of hope and healing. And don't forget to share this episode with anyone who could benefit from it, a friend, a sister, or someone in your community. You can follow me on Instagram at Natalie Ryan Hebert and at the Red Tent PMDD. I'd love to hear your thoughts and connect with you there.